Hello, I'm Tom Audiotool. You may not recognize me because I've shapeshifted. My powers truly know no bounds. But today, I've got something different for you guys. I'm going to teach you how to write rhythm, my favorite genre of music. Welcome to Cooking with Tom Audiotool.
So joining me is the very talented Vulkron, a bass music legend in the Audiotool sphere. Vulkron, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Just a guy that likes music.
And without further ado, let's get started on our bass music journey.
The most important part of any track, bass, reeds, subs, growls, anything dubstep, perfect.
So let's go ahead and gather together all of our best sounds and essentially create a riff. The inspiration I feel like this track could have been taken from is the Scrobelly Refuse that simply goes... just real simple, and almost has a little bit of a shuffle on those eighth note hits. We've gone through and taken an E and a B. You can see just these two note sections, and we've essentially created that rhythm. So now it goes a little bit. Except, played by somebody professional. We want to consistently be changing the texture of the synth because bass music listeners have a brain rot, tiny attention span. So Vulkron's gone through and taken a high-pass filter and applied it at some different variables. You'll notice we're bouncing back and forth between almost 1K and almost 500 hertz. And we're also taking the volume, see where this one goes for almost the entirety of the measure. You have an attack and a release. This one cuts off about a 16th note early, and that's what gives us our shuffled sound. Another nice thing is Vulkron did go through and bounce the sample for the bass, so little glitch moments like that are real easy to pull off. And we've taken this idea and only applied one extra thing between the filter and the volume, both just really playing to give us some shape. We've taken some different values from our FM, and we're only using two different values for this as well, but we're bouncing between them occasionally. So we have some different notes to give us some interest. We have some different rhythm that's in there, and even some different texture all throughout, coming out of one synthesizer. It's essentially just a slide. But this brings up a great point that we want to have the work not all be done by one synthesizer by its lonesome, or else, goodness, we're going to be automating way too much. So let's bring in some of those other cool sounds that we had in there. There we go. This riff idea can be applied to everything. Chord stabs, leads. You can even solo out just the sub and blow it out for a second. Maybe you want to have a quick melody or even a drum roll that's going to fill out everything. The biggest thing that you want to keep consistently there is your sub bass. I have this doing the very simple duty that I was playing out here on the bass guitar and truly holding down the bass line so that nothing sounds too wimpy next to another sound.
Next, we have drums. A kick, a snare, a hat, and any other background perks.
So here's the ultimate supportive role in bass music. The drums. They are announcing to your audience where they are in the song. As you have all this craziness going on around them and full surround Dolby 5.1, you want to make sure that that snare is keeping them home. So you'll notice right here, unbelievably simple 4 on the floor beat, right? Yeah, the drums don't matter. No, they really do, because our snare might be really giving us a constant home, but our kick can be used to announce big moments and to build anticipation. See that little coming up here on the other half of the measure, just knocking on the door? Another great thing is going to be with your hats, with your shakers, your perks. They are going to be what's giving you some energy in your drums, that further subdivision between the kick and the snare. And a nice thing, especially about hats, is that they can actually add some complexity to your rhythm. They don't have to be just constant 16th or 8 notes. They can actually be going in and out, away from the grid, building some anticipation the same way the kick was for your snare.
Next we have chords. So we have layered chords, pads, drones, all sorts of different sounds.
So this is where you're going to get the mood of your track. Melancholy, anger, whimsy, just a song that makes you want to pound monster energy like a true bass music listener. The things that are going to drive an emotional response from your listener are going to be your tempo and your harmonic elements. The great thing about chords is they carry so much weight for you. So we're going to take those hard-earned bass notes that we spent so much time transcribing, and we're just going to stack some extra notes on top of them. So you'll notice I have my E right here, and I've just found a chord that goes on top of E by adding 2 extra notes. And you'll notice my B is right there. I found a note that went below it. Explore a little bit with your chords. But the chords by themselves, I have a really nice kind of chorus sound going on right here. But there's something lingering there in the background. It's our ambience. The drone can be something so simple. For many songs, it is one chord that just lays out the entire track. But it's pulling a lot of work behind the scenes, because anytime that you have where your bass elements drop out, maybe you want to go to a verse and make everything a little bit more soft, that drone is keeping your ADHD-ridden audience's attention because it has some great texture. Here's the idea of working smarter, not harder. I've taken my chords and I've just ran them through a whole bunch of effects, essentially made them ambient. And then I've floated them in the background.
Leads, for the most part, I basically only have 2. There's square bass and saw bass. That's about it. That's really all you need to know.
So these are essentially the guitar solo of your track. And if you're not particularly good at writing melodies and don't want to have a whole entire jazz solo come in at the end of a dubstep song, I mean, oh my goodness, who would want that? We're going to fake it till we make it. So let's take a look at what's going on in this lead down here. You'll notice that there's some automation underneath it. And friend, this is going to be what gets you through everything. You're just going to give it bends. Yes, just like the lead guitarist, you're going to overcompensate with a whole bunch of effects that get around your lack of songwriting ability. So this melody, a bunch of tiny fast notes that are inconsequential, leading up to big sustained notes, and then I'm giving it some little points of interest with a bend. Every measure, there is a bend taking place. The lead you really want to reserve for big moments, like your chorus or your hook.
And then the one lone by himself in the corner of the room, we have the arpeggio.
And yes, the arpeggio is just a series of really fast notes. I took this from the chord progression we worked out earlier. Slapped some delay on it and called it a day. I think it's also important to note that you don't have to make your arp move in motion, going up and down, just following the notes in order. No, you can spread them out and kind of build a almost melody out of them. I'm also repeating a couple of different octave up and octave down notes on that. Slap some delay on it. Let that do the work for you. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about is song structure. This is something that doesn't get talked a whole lot about in bass music, but I've noticed there's 2 different approaches. There's the breakdown bass music, and there's the themed bass music. So the breakdown approach really is one that I appreciate as somebody who was raised on metalcore. It's taking your big, manly ideas of complicated synthesis and just throwing it in your audience's face all at once. I want to see somebody get their face torn off in the mosh pit to this. You want to have some opening ambience. You want to go into a breakdown. You want to go into a verse. A little bit more of a pop structure there. Maybe move away from some of the crazy bass sounds going on there and establish more of just a melody or a leitmotif that you will bring out throughout the song. Go straight back to a breakdown. Absolutely obliterate your audience. Then bring in some of those elements from the verse, some of those pop chord progressions and little melodies. Put them alongside with all the crazy bass stuff going on. This is the second breakdown. After this, you can either rinse and repeat, or if it's been about 3 minutes, you can hit them with the ambient outro. The theme focus is a little bit more open to interpretation. You're going to have a lot of melody and a lot of motifs, and they're going to be the driving force of your song. often you're going to have the crazy bass sounds like growlers and wubs playing a more traditional role. Think rhythms that a synth bass would normally play. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have your big crazy breakdown, but you want to hold back. Reserve it for the big climax. This is a style that tends to lean more towards hybrid genres, and it's a style that's going to guarantee your song is used in anime AMVs for years to come. Now, full disclosure, any kind of bass music is typically really hard to write for. If you're dipping your toes in the water for the first time, it's important for you to know I sucked when I started off, and my first attempts are still public for everybody to see. You're probably going to start off a little bit stronger than I did, and you got some amazing tools to work with. So here's to many people starting their journey making MLG edits.
Thank you for joining this session of Cooking with Tom Audio Tool.